So we're here at Foromic, the Inter-American Development Bank's Forum on Microenterprise, and I'm joined by Nancy Lee, the General Manager of the Multilateral Investment Fund. Nancy, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Pleasure.
My first question is, describe for us a little bit, what is Foromic?
Foromic, I think, is a unique conference. I think it's become really the premier conference on microfinance and small business finance and access to finance for poor households and small businesses, certainly in this region, but perhaps in the world.
Mm-hmm. And you recently joined the Multilateral Investment Fund, or MIF, as people call it, or FOMIN in Spanish. Describe as well, how does this fit within the structure of the bank, and what does the MIF actually do?
The MIF is actually a very unusual institution, and it's unique. I think it may be unique among any of the development banks. It's in effect a laboratory inside the Inter-American Development Bank. Its purpose is really to experiment and to pioneer and take risks and test new models for development, and then find the ones that are successful, and then help others scale up those models. And the other thing I think that's unusual about FOMIN is that we always work with local partners. We don't essentially intervene from the outside without having a local partner that has a stake in the success of the project. And also helps finance the project.
Mm-hmm. A major theme that we've seen so far is the role of women and women in entrepreneurship. How did you come up? How did you come up with this theme, and why is it so important at this time?
It's actually unusual in this Foromic conference to have a theme. Often we just explore the various aspects of microfinance, but in this year in particular, we thought it was important to highlight a really pressing problem for a lot of developing countries, which is that while women start many businesses, and in many cases they account for the majority of owners of micro enterprises, there is much less success in growing women's business beyond the micro phase. Mm-hmm. Women have a better sense of what the research and experience tells us. And then we are really trying to figure out different ways to intervene to help women's businesses grow. And we have and this can take a variety of forms, through new credit tools, through helping women save, because we know a lot of businesses that grow are based on the owner's savings, helping women with training and mentorship, and even things like helping women with their childcare responsibilities, giving poor women opportunities for decent, affordable childcare. So we're trying to attack the problem from all different directions, but this kind of conference gives us an opportunity to compare notes with a lot of other people.
And I think it's interesting at a conference centered on microenterprise and microfinance, I've heard a lot of talk about small businesses and medium-sized businesses.
Yes.
Why is that?
Yes, and I think we are, in some sense, starting to rebrand this conference a little bit so that it doesn't make a rigid line at the microfinance level. It views the creation of businesses and the growth of businesses as more of a continuum. Mm-hmm. And so microfinance institutions have to grow with their clients, and they have to create financial products that serve clients as they grow bigger. So it actually is not very useful to stop the conversation at the micro level. It's much more useful to talk about institutions that can serve different sized businesses.
Mm-hmm. And this is your first Foromic event with the IDB. What have been the highlights so far?
There have been a lot of highlights. It's a pretty extraordinary conference, not just because of its size, but because of the quality of its participants. You just get this sense when you're sitting in the sessions that you're really listening to people who are the best and the brightest on whatever subject that's being discussed. So it does really convene the right kinds of people. And in addition to that, this is a region that is at the forefront of microfinance, has been from the start. In effect, microfinance began here. And even through all of the shocks and the difficulties of recent years, the global financial crisis, microfinance in this region has survived and is even growing very rapidly. Last year it grew by something like 20%, which is pretty remarkable. We now have something like 15 billion in microfinance lending in this region. That's a 10-fold increase in 10 years, and we have a similar 10-fold increase in the number of clients that receive microfinance. So it's an impressive story, and it results in part because in this region there was a lot of effort made to build regulatory systems and institutions that were safe and sound, and that's paying off.
Great. Thank you very much, Nancy.
Okay, great. Thank you.